Welcome, grade 8 learners and curious minds, to this explainer. I'm your science teacher, and today we're tackling something completely fundamental to the MATATAG curriculum. We're going to unpack exactly how living things take the food they eat and turn it into usable cellular energy. It's this absolute hero's journey of a biological process happening inside you literally every single second. So let's just kick things off with a fundamental question. How exactly do your cells get the energy to move or breathe or even just think? I mean, you know you need food to survive, right? But a piece of bread doesn't just magically make your muscles flex on its own. No way. There is an incredibly complex microscopic factory working away inside you right now to make that happen. Here's our roadmap for tracking a single glucose molecule on its epic journey through your cells. We'll start with the need for energy, then look at autotrophs and heterotrophs. After that, we'll dive into the three big stages: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain, before wrapping it all up with the cycle of nature. All right, let's jump right into that first point, the need for energy, and how we actually power this biological factory. We need to start by understanding why our cells need this energy in the first place, and what form it actually takes. Think of ATP just like a fully charged battery that powers every single cellular function. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, and it is the absolute primary energy currency of your cells. Think about it like your phone. Your mobile phone requires a charged battery to open apps and process data, right? Well, your biological cells require ATP to do their jobs. The really crucial takeaway here is that without ATP, your cells would literally wear out faster than you think. Your muscles couldn't contract, and their body couldn't maintain a healthy metabolism. ATP powers active transport, which is how vital things move in and out of the cell walls. It also fuels biosynthesis. That's how your body builds new cell parts. So without a constant supply of this ATP, a cell simply cannot survive. But before we can actually charge up this cellular battery, we need raw materials. So let's talk about sourcing the fuel, looking at autotrophs and heterotrophs. There's a pretty strict divide in nature regarding how organisms get this initial glucose. On one side, we have autotrophs. They manufacture their own glucose through photosynthesis. They're totally self-sufficient. Plants and algae just take carbon dioxide and sunlight and boom, turn it into sugar. But on the other side, we have heterotrophs. That includes us humans, plus all other animals and fungi. We can't make our own food, so we have to consume other organisms to harvest those essential organic compounds. So once we have that fuel, how do we process it? Well, it builds into this overarching three-step roadmap of cellular respiration. This is the process that slowly drains that glucose molecule to charge our ATP. It's not instantaneous. It's actually a carefully coordinated assembly line divided into three stages: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. Let's zoom in on that very first stage, glycolysis, where we start breaking down the sugar. So our glucose molecule has just arrived inside the cell. It enters the fluid-filled cytoplasm. That's the jelly-like substance where all the cell's organelles are just floating around. Right here is where glycolysis happens. And the word literally means sugar splitting. That 6-carbon glucose molecule gets broken precisely in half, creating two smaller molecules called pyruvates. And the immediate reward for this splitting, it yields our very first 2 ATP molecules. Yep, our cellular battery is officially starting the charge. Now, right at this exact crossroads, the cell basically checks for air. It has to decide if it's going to proceed with highly efficient aerobic respiration or if it needs to fall back on a much less efficient anaerobic backup plan. Aerobic just means with oxygen, and it is the ideal path for making a ton of energy. Anaerobic, on the other hand, means without oxygen. It's basically your cell's emergency protocol for when you're starved for air. Let's say you're running out of breath, maybe during an intense sprint. Your cells temporarily use that anaerobic backup, specifically fermentation. In animals, this pathway produces lactic acid, and that is exactly why your muscles start to burn and cramp when you work out too hard. Now, in other organisms, like yeast, fermentation produces ethanol instead. But either way, remember this: it is only a temporary energy solution. It yields very little ATP and definitely cannot sustain your body for long. Assuming we are breathing normally and we do have enough oxygen, our broken down glucose fragments move on to the next phase, the Krebs cycle, where we enter the powerhouse. Those pyruvate fragments we made during glycolysis, they get delivered straight to the fluid matrix inside the mitochondria for the Krebs cycle. Now, it's really important to note that this stage is aerobic, meaning it relies on the oxygen pathway being open, but it doesn't actually use the oxygen directly just yet. Right now, it's just setting the stage and prepping materials for the grand finale. And you've probably heard this famous phrase before: the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Well, it's absolutely true. It's right here that the heavy lifting of energy production truly begins. The mitochondria are essentially these tiny, perfectly engineered biological power plants designed solely to keep you alive. During this Krebs cycle, those glucose fragments are completely dismantled, and as they break apart, they release carbon dioxide. Yep, that is the exact same carbon dioxide that travels through your bloodstream, into your lungs, and that you eventually breathe out. And while it's doing this, the cycle is also preparing these vital energy carriers. You can think of them like loaded shuttle buses, getting totally prepped for the final act. And that brings us to the big payoff: the electron transport chain. Finally, we reach the third and most powerful stage of our entire journey. Here, in the inner folds, or cristae, of the mitochondria, oxygen finally steps in directly. It acts kind of like a powerful magnet at the very end of the chain, pulling everything through. By helping to process those loaded shuttle buses, the energy carriers we built in the Krebs cycle, it helps produce massive amounts of ATP, and the only thing it leaves behind? Simple water, just a totally harmless byproduct. So, let's do the math. When we add up the 2 ATP from glycolysis and the massive 34 to 36 ATP generated from the electron transport chain, our single glucose molecule has generated a whopping total of 38 ATP molecules. Just think about that efficiency for a second. From one tiny single molecule of sugar, your microscopic cellular machinery extracts 38 individual units of vital energy. It's mind-blowing. To wrap things up, let's zoom out and look at the big picture: the cycle of nature and the biological coin. Let's step back from the microscopic view for a minute. See how this cellular factory fits into the wider natural world? Cellular respiration and photosynthesis are biological opposites. They act as a perfect, continuous cycle, entirely dependent on one another. If you look at this, you'll notice the raw materials for one are the exact products of the other. Plants use their chloroplasts to take in carbon dioxide and water to make glucose. Then we humans use our mitochondria to take in that glucose, output ATP energy, and return carbon dioxide and water right back to the plants. Ultimately, the chemical mouth of this whole process simply shows how our bodies combine food and air to release carbon dioxide, water, and that precious ATP energy. We take in 1 glucose molecule and 6 molecules of oxygen, and through the incredible, complex stages we just covered, we unlock the energy that is literally keeping us alive today. So as you take your next breath, consider this. Without this intricate, interdependent cycle of nature, plants continuously making glucose and us continuously breathing out the carbon dioxide they need, how would your cellular batteries ever stay powered? It's just a beautiful, perfect loop of life. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into cellular respiration. Keep asking those great questions, keep studying hard, and I'll see you in the next explainer.